this is Natasha Lara Lewis with Esther's Place and Big Rock Organics, and I'm going to take you on a little tour of our vegetable operation. We run a CSA, which means Community Supported Agriculture, where people buy in for the season and they get a box of produce each week. Our family started doing organic vegetables shortly after we moved onto our farm in 2000. My dad had gotten laid off, and we just really thought, well, this is a great idea. We could do farmers markets. Farmers markets were just beginning to really take off in the early 2000s, and so we did the wheat and French market for a number of years and other area markets, and just kind of stuck. The CSA model then came out, and we really just embraced that, because what it does is it allows you to get a base of customers that are, your devoted farm family, and they help support you by, helping to kind of give you working capital in the beginning of the season by paying for their share, and then in return they get a box of produce each week. Now, it's looked a little different down through the years, and my husband and I have kind of taken it over from my parents now, and we've implemented some fun things like video, every week explaining the boxes, also home delivery and things like that. But really the operation, comes down to just growing good vegetables. So this is here where it all starts. We start in the greenhouse early in spring. It's a wonderful place to be in, February, March, where it's cold outside and it's nice and warm and toasty in here. So we grow all of our starts in here, and probably in the thousands and thousands of vegetable plants that we grow. I haven't done exact count, but we grow a lot, and we also pot them up and sell them at the shop. So we've got plants there from about May through June. Now, over on the side here we have our hardening table, and you'll see above me is this cloth. It's a shade cloth that helps prevent really intense sun and wind. It just helps to shelter the plants a little bit. So we put plants out here that are ready to go in the garden but need a little bit of a transition to the real world. So we have this beautiful sheltered environment in the greenhouse, and then we have, the real world out here. And so we try to shelter that transition just a little bit with the hardening table. So out here we've got plants that are all ready to go into the field. We've been planting, pretty solidly for the last couple of days as we're getting ready for the summer season, but our planting in the field and field work, really begins in about April when the soil gets warmed up. So this small garden behind me is used for a lot of different things. This year we've had some wet soil to contend with, so we are just a little bit behind schedule, but hopefully we'll get some dry weather and some warm weather and we'll catch up. But this one is our really good carrot garden, and I don't know if you see the irony of having the horses next to the carrot garden, but I always thought that was kind of funny. So this soil it works really well for carrots. Different types of soil are better for certain things, and this one just really works well for carrots in this garden in particular. So we've got several things in here, and we'll continue to be planting, but the first thing we've got are carrots. When I plant carrots, I also plant a few radishes with them, and that way the radishes pop up much quicker and you can identify the row and start cultivating it. And then the carrots, which are much slower, finally come up, but because I have some radishes marking the row, it really helps to cultivate. Now, we do everything organically. We're not certified, but we, try to follow the regulations and use only OMRI certified, fertilizers and things like that. We also make all of our own compost from the animals, and, really just aim for a sustainable circle of practices here. So next to those carrots, we've got some beautiful spinach, we've got some lettuce, dill, and cilantro. And then a couple of herbs. We're actually transitioning and building a beautiful herb raised garden at the shop right now. My husband's pretty handy, so he's been implementing a lot of new things. Actually, this year we're trying quite a bit of new stuff, so we're kind of excited about that. Behind me, that big white building is actually where we store all of our hay. We do all of our own hay operations and provide our own, hay for the sheep. So We do probably, I don't know, a couple thousand bales or so of hay, so that's kind of fun. And then hopefully we'll be able to develop a hay market if we're able to get a good enough supply. The last few years have been a little chancy with the weather. We've had a couple of really wet years, so hopefully this one will just be moderate. I'm walking over to the big garden over here. Behind me is this beautiful lilac bush. It smells amazing. So we've got 8 acres, and we do a little bit of everything over here, from our animals to the vegetables. We don't do any fruit. I often get that question from people, and I love the idea of it, but it's just a whole new area I don't know a lot about, to be honest. Doing organic fruit, great in theory, but it's just a lot of, pest management and things like that. And a lot of those small fruits are kind of fiddly, and I'm just not a big fan of picking tiny things that spoil quickly. So I leave that up to the experts. But we do all kinds of vegetables. So we grow everything from arugula to zucchini, everything in between. We try to do a lot of the old favorites, but then also, intersperse it with some unique, interesting, like cultural foods and things like that. Our season spans for 16 weeks from June all the way through September. And so you get a good idea of what the garden looks like in this area. A lot of people are not used to eating sustainably, based on where they actually live. And so we start out the season with cold weather crops that are things, like radishes and salads, onions and broccoli, greens and things like that. Then we'll warm up a little bit into summer, and we start getting squashes and peppers and things like that, and then sweet corn, tomatoes, and then we follow up with the fall with kind of a mirror of the spring with some of our greens and things like that, but then also your vegetables, your winter squashes and things like that. So it's just kind of a fun culinary adventure of exploring different kinds of food and learning, what you can do with it. And it just brings a little bit of interest to, the cooking adventure that we have to do every day. And here we are. Okay, we are at the big garden here. This is probably, I don't know, maybe 1.5 acres or something like that. So we are smaller scale. We have about 40 members in our CSA, and then we also do the farm stand at Esther's Place in the summer as well. So something new that we're trying this year is this black plastic, and we're pretty excited about it. It is a ground cover that is permeable. Try to get a little closer view here. It's actually permeable, so you can get, air and water and warmth through it, but it won't allow weeds. It's also recyclable so that we can use it from year to year. The holes that we have put into it to put the plants in, we burn with a torch, and it creates a really nice little hole. It just kind of, melts the plastic and cauterizes it, and then we're able to plant the plant right into it. So what I've got here are squashes. We've actually got cucumbers and zucchinis. Now they have a little bit of this white dusting on them, and it's actually an organic product called Surround. It's a clay, and it is a solution that you dip the plants in, and it helps to protect from insects. It will get washed off in the rain, but then you can always reapply it. But what I feel like it does is it also helps, from the sun, from burning the plants, and it protects them from just that initial onslaught of, bugs that you might get when you put the fresh transplants out in the garden. Now underneath we have drip irrigation that runs, so they're going to be fed with water, and that's all controlled, in different zones so that we can water it effectively. So we're going to have a big area here of squashes. We've got some that are sprawlers. The cucumbers we put up on a trellis. The zucchinis, they are kind of bushy, so they're not going to sprawl too much. The next thing that we're going to plant today here is actually winter squashes, all kinds of stuff over here. We're going to put another piece of plastic when the ground dries out a little bit more. Then we've got this beautiful stand of peas. These are snow and snap peas with this gorgeous trellis, and they'll grow up that trellis. You can already start to see them, you know, just creeping up the trellis. And these guys will be one of our, you know, early summer yields. They'll probably come at the end of June or something like that. This is our Potatoeville. We have these gorgeous potato plants, and they are actually built in hills, and then we will come along and hill the soil up more as the season continues. So these were planted, our earliest thing to go in the ground. The farmers always say, Good Friday, and so we planted them in early April. They did get hit by the frost, the ones that had come up. We got that hard, well, it wasn't really a frost, it was a freeze at 26 degrees here a couple weeks ago. But amazingly enough, resilient. The ones that did pop before that frost actually died and then sent up new growth. What a amazing analogy. Really just so many good life lessons that we learn in the garden. So underneath these hoops here, we have crops that are susceptible to my arch nemesis, which is the flea beetle. I hate flea beetles, and they leave a tiny little speck in the plant, and it just makes it look unsightly, and of course, you know, affects the you know, quality of how it grows. And so we control this through these fabric floating row covers. And so again, it's light enough that it allows for the air and the sunshine and the rain, but it protects from the insects. We also use organic sprays like Pyganic and other things like DE, diatomaceous earth, to help control our bugs and things like that as well. But, you know, we do believe a couple of flaws in the produce are better than chemicals to make it perfect. So, you know, we aim to do our best, but, you know, we want things as natural as possible. So that's what we try to do here. So underneath here, we've got kohlrabi, Napa cabbage, kale, and yeah, I think that might be everything. And we've got some green beans coming up here. They were pretty slow because I planted them really early, but they're starting to pop up. Underneath here, we've got some lettuce. Let's see if we can try to peek underneath here. That lettuce looks really beautiful. Let's see here. So, can you see it? Oh boy. Ah, I've lost the camera. Okay. So we've got lettuce peeking underneath here, radishes, arugula. It's looking really good. So that lettuce will be ready for our first week of picking. And lettuce is definitely something that we have always been really well known for, is our lettuce. Okay, we've got some onions over here, and leeks, onions and leeks, then scallions, and kale. This band of kale is looking really good. Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, and under these big hoops we've got cabbage and beets and lettuce and arugula, again protecting from those flea beetles. And these actually look really gorgeous underneath here. The cabbage is really big, and the plants are looking really nice, and they were protected from the frost really well. We've got some fresh spinach and fresh lettuce that was newly planted. And over here, a continuing project, we've got Swiss chard at the very end, celery, and tomatoes. We have a lot left to plant still. If we can just get the weather to cooperate a little bit and to stop some of this rain and let us have some warm days. We have over here area to plant yet with peppers, eggplant, We're gonna try some flowers this year. All kinds of wonderful things going in. So we have been really busy here in preparation for starting our CSA in June. So that is the garden, folks. We also have some friendly neighbor cows that like to watch us and hang out to see what we're working on. So we have a couple other garden beds here and there that we utilize, and you know, there's always something else going in, something being planted. Almost every single week we are planting and harvesting, cultivating, spraying, maintaining this wonderful little plot here. So this is Big Rock Organics at its finest here. So thank you so much for joining me for this garden tour. I hope you've enjoyed seeing just a little peek into our world here and what it is that we are working on. So thanks so much. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.